Nah, I need something dirtier than that.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired. What's up, Holmes?
Down. Oh, I have to burp. It's time to start a live show right when the burp is about to happen, but that's okay. I'll hold on to it. I'll hold it. And there's Rami. Everyone say something, Rami, so the camera will go to you.
Hey, man. I'm not quite sure how quickly the camera turns to me, actually.
I'll tell you a little bit about it. First, I'll welcome everyone. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Sup Holmes. I think we're up to episode 14 now. And we have Rami Ismail. Is that always your name? Rami?
Yep.
And you are the half of the power team that makes up Vlambeer, the creators of Great Box and Radical Fishing?
Yeah, Radical Fishing. The other half is JW, but he's not here, and getting this sort of chat to work with 5 people seems like completely logistical nightmare.
I didn't even invite him like a real dick. Yeah, I didn't even think of inviting him. But he's the kind of the art. Well, you have some artistic input, but he's kind of the art.
Yeah,
side.
no, it's kind of like you have to imagine Vlambeer is basically me and JW fighting over shit all day, and then what comes out of that is Vlambeer. So
it's working. And
he's
you
like
have
the main creative guy.
How many games do you have out? 4?
No, more like 12. I think.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, we make too much stuff. We like prototyping really quickly.
Okay.
So oftentimes we have this thing that is kind of nice, and we just release it.
Huh. I've missed a lot of your games then. I know about the first fishing game, which I'm mixing up with the latest one. I played that. That was great. That's Radical
Fishing. Yes.
Right. And I, of course, know about Super Crate Box, which is on PC and also on iDevices. I know about Yeti hunting, which I haven't played, but I've just watched people play it, and it's so relaxing.
It is somewhat, until the Yeti finds you, in which case you have to either run for your life or you shoot it.
Yeah. But but building up to that is such a serene time, at least to watch. I think to play it would be much more tense.
Yeah, it's tense.
Now you have a new fishing game coming out. Is that right?
Ridiculous Fishing. Yeah, it's basically the sequel to Radical Fishing.
Huh. And what was the impetus to make? Because your most successful game, I'm guessing, is Super Crate Box. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And actually, I don't want to jump too far ahead. Tell us about Super Crate Box. For the people who haven't played it, sell your game to us.
Okay, selling Super Crate Box is quite hard because the PC version is kind of free, so you can just download it. I think that would be the best way to do it anyway. Super Crate Box is a little arcade platformer, and the goal of Super Crate Box isn't so much to kill enemies. There's an endless stream of enemies dropping from the top. But the goal isn't so much to kill them, but to collect a little crate that randomly spawns on the screen every time you collect one. And every time you grab a crate, you get a random weapon. And you don't know what weapon it is or what weapon it's going to be, just that it's a different one from the one you have. And for every time you switch weapon or for every time you collect a crate, you get a point. And the thing that does, and the thing what makes it special, is that mechanic of having to go to the next crate to score a point, makes Super Crate Box like really fast and frantic, and you have to keep moving. You can't just stand in a corner with your favorite weapon and keep shooting. You can shoot enemies all day, but you won't get a single point for it. Right. So you have to run, and then you have to switch weapon. And if you get a really sucky weapon, well, then you're basically screwed, and you have to figure out a way to get back to the next crate.
Right. And after you get enough crates, you get to the next level, and there's a bunch of levels, and so
yeah,
a sense of progression.
There is a sense of progression. It's mostly in the weapons, though. If you're a new player, you'll unlock lots of stuff, like over the first 30 minutes of playing. And after that, it basically goes to a high score game, and there are some pretty ridiculous high scores on the high score list, like scores that I wouldn't have dreamt of ever achieving.
Like how many? I saw like 30,000 crates a little while ago.
Yeah, no, we keep a counter of how many crates have been collected worldwide. I can check how many crates that are at the moment. I mean,
that'll be fun. When you do that, I'll tell you why I love your game. It's brilliant. it takes the. I don't know if you played Pac-Man Championship Edition DX.
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that game because the game dynamically changes, yet stays incredibly simple. To do that much in the way of variation and simplicity at the same time, it's not easy. It takes a certain kind of brain, and you guys did that with your game. Like you said, you're always after the same target, but how you get there is constantly changing, and you're not always in control of it, which is not like real life. If you ever try to achieve anything in real life, you'd know that your environment is constantly changing on you while you're trying to do it. You know what you want, but the world may not care about staying consistent and helping you get there, which is a nice little metaphor for life. Super great thoughts.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of metaphors for Super Crate Box. Somebody actually called the game patriotic because he thought the crates were terrorists. I'm not quite sure where that came from, but we hear a lot of metaphors about the game. Actually, at this point, there have been over 200 million crates collected if you combine the PC and iOS version.
Whoa.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
No, but you are completely right about Super Crate Box. Like, the goal we had with that game was trying to make something that was really minimalist. Like, there are 3 basic rules. Like, you get a point and a new weapon for the crate. If an enemy reaches the bottom fire pit, it will come back from the top, but it will be twice as fast and red and angry, you know. And if you touch an enemy, you die. That's like the basic 3 rules that make up Super Crate Box. But like you said, the interplay between those rules like creates a completely dynamic sort of system. Like, if you grab a crate at the top and it's a minigun, you'll be able to kill enemies for like. You'll be able to clear the entire screen just using that. But if you get the mines at like the bottom, you're going to have a hard time going to the top. So all the little random variations in the environment change the game so much, even though everything that we defined was like those 3 basic rules and the weapons. And we didn't even have to balance the weapons in a way. Like, we have weapons that are completely overpowered, and we have weapons that are absolutely horrible. We have the disc gun, which basically kills you. If you shoot it, it will rebound from the wall, and if it hits you, you die.
Right.
We didn't need to balance that stuff because the game balances itself. If you get a ridiculously overpowered weapon, you still need to go to the next crate. And if you get a really weak weapon, you'd probably have to clear the screen before grabbing the next crate. Like, before you grab the crate with the weak weapon. Because that's your own fault. If you have like a really powerful weapon, and you... Wait, let me just put my Skype on busy. This is ridiculous.
Are people Skyping you too? You're so popular.
People are Skyping me. This is... Let me just quickly press this do not disturb thing.
Take your time.
Yes. No,
but,
so yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm really fast with Skype, man. The thing is that I think that makes it really... It's something that we try to pursue with Vlambeer, like, since we started. Like, there is a lot of beauty in like minimalism of rules. There are a lot of games that try to define everything for you. Every little thing and crook and whatever. We try to like take as few rules as possible and then create as much responsibility for every single one of the rules, which sounds kind of maybe artsy, but I think the idea is that like Pac-Man, like you said, there is a lot of gameplay to be found in like minimalist game design, and a lot of these games could have been invented in the 80s but haven't, and we think the world is kind of missing out, so we make them.
Yeah, that makes sense, and you can make them. Even if you wanted to, I'm sure it'd be harder to make a game with tons and tons and tons of rules because you wouldn't be able to put out 13 games, you said, you filmed? 12?
Yeah.
Wow, and when did you guys start up?
We started, it's almost our 2nd anniversary. We started on September 1st, 2010.
13 games in 2 years. That's pretty intense. What are some of the other games that I've missed out on?
You've missed out on Gun Gods, which is our first-person shooter. It's a first-person shooter that kind of looks like Wolfenstein and kind of plays like Quake. We created it for something called Venus Patrol, which is a website focused on video game culture, and its founder is Brandon Boyer, who's also the chairman of the IGF.
Okay.
And he asked us to do a little simple game for a video game website about culture. So obviously, since this is a website about culture, we decided to go with a first-person shooter because that's the most cultural type of game you can make. It's about
proto-cultural even. Is it
yeah,
is it a game about killing people and cultures?
the game is a bit about it's a hip hop inspired first-person shooter. So there's a lot of rap and hip hop and stuff in there, and it's set on the only building on Venus. And basically, you try to escape from the clutches of the record label holder that lives at the top of the hotel. And I don't think I've ever really listened to rap before, but we ended up quoting a lot of Notorious B.I.G. and stuff like that in our office. It was kind of unexpected. We tried.
Wait. Just, all right. So the chairman of the IGF, kind of a big deal, asked you to make a game for him, for his thing about culture.
Yeah.
So you were like, I know what we'll do. I've never listened to rap music before, but let's make a hip-hop culture-based first-person shooter that takes place in Venus.
Yes. Actually, all the rap is in Venusian as well. We have no clue what it says. We don't know Venusian.
How big are your balls? Have you measured? Because they can't be small. If the guy, the IGF, you want to impress him, we're gonna make a game that's gonna make you happy, IGF guy. Venusian rap, first-person shooter. You're gonna love it. Is that what you were thinking, or were you just thinking we don't care? We're just gonna do whatever we want because that's what.
I think it's the latter. It's the latter. We just do what we want. It's something we've always done. Like a while before, have you ever heard of something called Serious Sam: The Random Encounter?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't played it.
Well, that's our game as well. The thing with that was the guys who published Serious Sam.
Mm-hmm.
They sent us an email about a year ago asking us like, okay, we're releasing Serious Sam 3 BFE like in a short while, and we'd like a few big indie names to like do a spin-off series. So can you do whatever? You can do whatever you want. That's what they said. You can do whatever you want, but it must be a Serious Sam game. And we kind of went like, okay, so we don't really trust this. Like what they probably want is like super crate box with a Serious Sam skin, right? That's like the obvious thing. So we decided to test them and like pitch the most ridiculous thing we could come up with that would still be fun to make. So we thought, Serious Sam, okay, that's about like strafing backwards, running a lot, shooting a lot of like over-the-top weapons and like 500 enemies on the screen at once. That's Serious Sam.
Right.
So what is the least obvious thing to do with that? So we ended with two options. One was like a text adventure, but that didn't sound like too much fun for us to work on for a few months. And the other one was a turn-based RPG in the style of Final Fantasy and stuff. So we went with making a Serious Sam turn-based RPG, which you can now buy on Steam.
No way! Really?
Yeah, actually, yeah. We sent that to them, and we kind of expect them to go like, no, that's not what we want. And they went like, yeah, and we went like, now we actually have to make this thing? Like, no way.
They out-trolled you. Wow, they flipped the troll script on you. That's incredible.
Yes.
But I'm going to buy it now that you've told me about it. I remember when the Serious Sam guys were reaching out to smaller developers, and all of the games I played from that were all, I think, 2D platformers, so I assumed that's what you would do too. But you did you do the sprite work and everything on it? Did you have to write a script?
Well, Serious Sam doesn't really have a script. The script is, Serious Sam, the games. Like, Serious Sam goes back into history using this thing called the time lock, and then he shoots things in the face, trying to shoot something called Mental in the face. Right. And then Mental always gets away, right? Yeah. So we decided to do a game between Serious Sam 1 and 2, where Serious Sam comes back from the past, and then figures out that Mental has outsmarted, like, Sam. So they decided to send Sam to the only place where he won't be expected by Mental, which is the future. So they send Serious Sam to the future.
Oh, okay.
That's the plot.
That's a good plot.
It's complex. It's up there with like high grade literature. It's
sure. Yeah, it's the next Shakespeare. Absolutely. And in a turn based, is he the only guy in his party, Serious Sam? Or is he?
No, there's like three guys. You have like Sam and like the guy with the afro haircut,
Oh
and
yeah.
like the cowboy from the multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we wanted to make a turn-based RPG with like 500 enemies on the screen at once. So that's what we did. If you look up a screenshot of Serious Sam the Random Encounter, it's sort of ridiculous.
Yeah,
Uh,
sounds like it. I will buy it today. No,
Well,
no
thank
questions asked.
Thank
I
you.
suggest everyone else buy it because it doesn't sound like any other game that's ever been made.
No, that
So,
was kind of the idea. It was a spin-off project, so we didn't have too much time nor funds nor whatever. It was just something that we wanted to do. So we wanted to come up with something like interesting that could hopefully inspire people to do something new with RPGs.
right.
And not having the traditional, this guy does this thing and then on this guy, and then you see an animation. We just kind of went with this guy shoots this weapon in this direction, and everything in there gets like shit ton of damage.
Whoa.
Then you move your characters a bit, so you're not locked to aiming your attack on a specific enemy or on a group of enemies. You can just aim it wherever.
Huh.
So for fast enemies, you could like aim ahead of them by a small bit, so that when you would shoot your attack, the enemy would run into it and you do more damage.
It sounds like it started off as a joke, but it sounds like a legit great idea for a game.
Yeah, no, it's like we don't want to make a shitty game. So the things we pitched were like ideas that were ridiculous, but we had already like prototyped it a bit and checked that it would be like over the top and nice.
Sure.
Like, you don't want to make shitty games, right?
Right. Even if you're joking, you don't want
Yeah.
the experience to be bad for the player. So that's fantastic. And speaking of player experience, at least sort of a segue. Oh crap! I have to quickly promote the shirt. It's RoboCup.
Yes.
If you want a RoboCup shirt, you can email holmes@gmail.com and just say that you want a RoboCup shirt, or just say anything. Any email I get from today till next week will be put into the drawing for $30 worth of threadless money. I think this was $10, so you'll get this, shipping, maybe another shirt. You can enter, Rami, if you want.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, can I chip it and try to get one as well? Because like that is one of the most amazing shirts ever.
I know, isn't it great? They gave me a few shirts to help promote this whole thing. Yeah, they will. I'll give you their email. If you wear it on another live stream, and you're wearing that badass Fez shirt, you're already quite.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. But I mean, that is a RoboCup shirt, like an actual RoboCup shirt.
It is. It's how I feel. I'm gonna get to some questions, and then I'll get to what I was gonna say before. I feel bad. I've forgotten the questions. You're so involving, Rami. I was totally involved in your mind, what you're saying. Was there any friendly competition? This is from LaFay. Was there any friendly competition between you and other Serious Sam indie devs to create the best Serious Sam? He names Mommy's Best Games, for example. Nathan Fouts, a great guy.
Yeah, no, I think there was some sort of like friendly competition. Like it's the same thing with indies, like all over the world, I suppose. The competition is always sort of friendly. I remember like on the day we released Serious Sam the Random Encounter, like our goal was to outsell like Serious Sam Double D. But just for fun, for friendly measure. I think we ended up like beating them by 12 copies or something, which is like teeny. We like an hour before, like no, it was 5 minutes. 5 minutes before the 24-hour thing would end. We checked and we were like 300 behind or something, and then we like put it and we just tweeted and put stuff on Facebook and went like, guys, we need to win this, like please, like buy our game or whatever.
And it works, isn't it? It's so weird, the promotion.
No, that worked out. Friends and stuff, they all chipped in to like help us beat them by 12 copies or something. It was really fun to do that, and I have to admit, like Double D was a lot of fun. They had an enormous amount of secrets, and the gun stacker is like a great idea.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's the one I think I played. I played that and a couple of other ones. Solus and Sound ask, is there any chance we'll see Super Crate Box come to something like the Vita PSN? I think it would look great in 3D, so I'm always thinking 3DS, but any consoles, handheld or home consoles. Any chance people make that?
So the thing with Super Crate Box is we've just released it on iOS. And we'd love to bring it to more, like, honestly, I'd love to have as many people play Super Crate Box as possible, because I really think that it's a really good like sort of business card for what we do. You know, the minimalist game design. It's a game that you can really that really it's one of those games that allows you to you suck at it at first, right? Like when you first play Super Crate Box, you're horrible at it, and as you continue playing, you actually get better in it, not because you invested time, but because you like actually got better at it. And that's sort of unique, and we'd love to have as many people like play that. So yeah, we're looking at whether we can bring it to PlayStation Vita or 3DS or any other mobile thing, but I don't think we'll do consoles because consoles are just like a horrible thing to develop such a tiny game for. Like it's too small for it to be an Xbox or a PlayStation release, but it's definitely good enough to be, or big enough to be on a Vita or 3DS. So if we could, like, if anybody from Sony or Microsoft is watching, like, send us an email and we'd love to.
Awesome. Yeah, and I know a bunch of Vita and 3DS developers, publishers, so I can put you in touch with them. That'll be fun. Maybe it'll all have started here, thanks to Solace and Sound. Thank you, sir. Ninja President wants to know, is there ever a chance of us getting the Winitron versus mode? And I didn't know there was a Winitron versus. No, actually I did. I'll hear more about that in a second. He played the original beta, and he remembered it being 2-player, and he wants to know if PC players will get that in a humble indie bundle or something ever, like with Cannonball had a 2-player mode. That Winitron, explain that to the people, because that's a wonderful thing. The
Winitron is something that was thought up by Alec Holoka and some other Canadian devs. It's basically an arcade cabinet with indie games on it, and it's curated by the guys from Canada. And the idea behind it is that they have a lot of like small indie games and then a lot of exclusive versions of big indie games. So there's like the 2-player version of Cannonball on there. That's like was the only place you could play 2-player Cannonball, and there's also a 2-player mode of Super Crate Box. The cool thing about the Winitrons is that at some point, like, we saw the Winitron and we decided like we could definitely use something like that in the Netherlands. We don't really have an indie scene in the Netherlands, or we didn't used to when we started. So we wanted to like sort of get that indie scene thing going. So we thought like the Winitron as sort of a central showcase thing would be a great thing to have for other aspiring game developers to look up to and try to develop something for, you know, because that Winitron, the Winitrons, they go places. They go to GDC. They go to GDC. They just show up everywhere. They travel basically, and by now there are like 8 or 9 cabinets all over the world. There's one in Canada. There's one in Utrecht near our office. That's ours. You have one in Melbourne. There's one in, I think, in Paris, in Italy. There's there are Winitrons like popping up everywhere, and the cool thing about that is that they're sort of synchronized. So if somebody adds a game somewhere, it like shows up on all the other cabinets as well.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Huh.
So awesome. It's a pretty awesome thing. It's been sort of on the back buffer the entire Winitron project for a while, but there's a lot of new ones recently, so I think we'll see a lot of new interesting stuff on there in like a while. But yeah, no, like the Winitron is a great thing because there isn't too much place to showcase. There weren't too many places to showcase your indie games, and there still is like this problem with small multiplayer games, you know, 2-player games, stuff like that. There's a game on the Winitron called Nidhogg, which is one of the most amazing 2-player games ever. It was made by an indie called Mark Essen. It's like a fencing game. Yeah,
I've seen video of it. I haven't played it though.
It's one of the most fun 2-player games I've ever played, and like just the fact that it's so rare to play is like in part due to Mark just showing it off at competition and stuff, but also because 2-player games, you can't really release a pure 2-player games nowadays, right?
Sure. I mean, unless it has online play and stuff like that, it's very hard to put that on PC.
Well, it's actually so much fun to be standing next to somebody and punch them, like, just to not lose.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to track down. I'm not that far from Canada. I can track down a Winitron. I've been meaning to make one myself for Destructoid, but It always gets put on the back burner. Hopefully later this year, I've been talking to
If
those. I think it's
if you guys would want to, like, if you have an arcade cabinet and a spare PC, just email the Winitron guys. Like, they're always open for new Winitrons. So if you want, like, the Destructoidtron or something, just build an arcade cabinet, put a PC in there, put it in your office, and mail the guys, and they'll send you the software to, like, hook it up.
I'm such a dumbass. I should have done that last year. I've been thinking about doing it forever, but I want it to be really amazing. You know, I wanted to have the Destructoid robot in it, and there's this huge arcade near where I live called Pinball Wizard that's got like 500 arcade machines in it. I'd want to put it there for maximum exposure. So I've got a big master plan, but thank you for encouraging me to do that. Do it. I hope to do it. Because what I love about Winitron is that it humbles the indie scene, which can be a little bit intimidating because indie developers are usually smart and weird, which people think, oh, that they're hard for me to relate with because I just want to have a simple, good time. But when you actually play a lot of the games in the indie scene, even though they don't try very hard to appeal always in the common sense, they don't try to speak to the lowest common denominator. They're actually most of the really good ones have a universal appeal to them, and anyone can enjoy them. And the Winitron really shows that because everyone can relate to arcade games. I think most people over a certain age can relate to the arcade feeling, and it says indie and arcade isn't so different from each other. In fact, they're a lot alike, I think.
I think so. Yeah, no, actually, last week, me and JW, we did a talk at a little indie event in the Netherlands called In Development.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about how me and JW got started. So we actually started to talk with explaining that I was born in 1988 and JW was born in 1990, and that we played on really old computers, and that we played chess, and that we tried all sorts of things with our lives before we got into this sort of game thing. But one of the things that really got me interested in games was I'm half Egyptian. And while in the Netherlands there aren't any arcades left, in Egypt there's still a pretty big arcade scene. So when I was 6 or something, when I was this high or something, I used to play at the arcades in Egypt, and that made a pretty big impact on me. Just the idea of playing together, with somebody next to you. I have to admit I kind of miss that.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too.
Best games, a lot of good games nowadays are just you sitting on the couch with somebody next to you and punching them. I miss the punching. I'll be honest, I miss the punching.
I got punched really hard in the chest playing Street Fighter 2 with the owner of the arcade's son. He would not tolerate losing. That's the kind of thing that just doesn't happen online. There was a community, there was a social structure, there was social norms when you played games with other people in the arcade that you don't get online. No. You didn't go to the arcade and get called a bunch of racial slurs and rage quit in the middle of a game. Most people wouldn't do that anyway. People actually treated each other like human beings and got to know each other and share an interest face to face back then.
Have you ever played Joe and Sebastian Joust?
No, I want to though. Badly.
No, you should. That game is the prime example of that sort of thing happening. You have this group. I always play with Douglas Wilson and some other people, and there's a sort of ritual that we always sort of do a bow before we start with the actual game. It's sort of weird, but that sort of thing sort of happens. It's a game without a screen. You just have a PlayStation Move controller, and you walk around and you hear Bach music. And the tempo of the music kind of indicates how fast you can move the controller, and if you move it too fast, you're out. And that's basically all. If the music goes faster, you can move your controller faster, and if the music goes slower, you have to move the controller slower. So what happens is people try to shield their own controller like this, and then kind of try to slap the controller out of somebody else's hand. But then when the music goes fast, people start running and punching and then throwing stuff in some cases. And the fun part is that the game doesn't really care about that. The game actually measures is whether your controller has moved too fast.
Right.
So you get the social structure, the social rules, no throwing, no kicking. And then somebody goes no, I'll kick anyway. And then, that sort of thing happens. It's really quite amazing to see that, they call it broken game design, but I'd rather call it undefined rules. Like the whole undefined thing of Joust makes it such a fun game just to play with friends.
Yeah, it seems like the random element in that is the human beings that you're with, and they kind of define the rules as it goes. Whereas Super Crate Box, the random element is what weapon you're going to get. Johann Sebastian Joust, it's are you hanging out with a guy who's going to slap you in the face or not? Maybe you are. Maybe you are that day. We got another question from Lark. Any advice for someone who wants to get into game design? Oh, that's hard. That's a hard
It's not really hard. I think it's a pretty simple one. Make games. That's like the thing. The talk we did like last week in development, we explained how we got into games, and how we got into games was first we liked games, we liked to play them, and then at some point we started like changing something somewhere. I started changing a little code file that I had to open before I could play my favorite game, and I changed some variables in that, some numbers, and then like my weapons were more powerful. And JW started to play. He used to read a little child magazine about computers, and in one of the issues was something called Game Maker, and he installed that and he toyed around with it, and he didn't understand any of it. So like 3 years later, he found that on his computer, and he started toying around, and he like ripped sprites from the Activision side where they had like Warcraft sprites because he couldn't like make art himself. Sure. So he just put that in his game, and he started to make games. He started to change tutorials, and I've been coding ever since I was 6. Since I had that code file, I've been coding and changing stuff. And at first, like all my shit was horrible, like it was absolutely horrible. And then like 5 years ago, it was still horrible. But the only it's a creative job, right? So the only way you're gonna get better at it is by just doing shit. And most likely, most of the stuff you make is gonna be pretty bad at first. But that's the only way you're going to learn, right? Sure. So it's basically make games, and then also don't make games. Like you have to make games, but it doesn't have to be the only thing you do. Because if making games like is the only thing you do, you miss out on all the things that give you inspiration, like life. Sure. And if you only take inspiration from other games, you're going to make games that look like those games. So I always say, and it's sort of a ridiculous example, but going skydiving will make you a better game designer. Because you can't get that experience anywhere else. And it's the sense of falling and the floor, like the ground rushing up to you, that you can't get anywhere else. But it can inspire you, right?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
That will help you make interesting games. Just playing like every game that gets released will give you a really good overview of what works and what doesn't work in games, but it won't help you make creative games. So go out, talk to people, go to conferences, listen to other developers, get in touch, and then make a lot of games.
And live life at the same time.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That was a very minimalist school of education on game design, but it made sense. Make games, don't care if they suck too much, because you'll get better. But also have a life like a human being.
Yeah.
Great advice. I love it. I find that you have to do things other than your main job in order to get psychological energy back. Because it can be very draining to just work on projects all the time.
Oh, hell yes. Yes.
Like, yeah. And it sounds like you guys have a creative mindset that's so playful that it may be easy for you to continue to. I mean, you must enjoy making games quite a bit. In order to put out 13 in a year, you must have the kind of attitude towards it that doesn't kind of crush you in the process of making it. At least that's my guess.
Well, we've been, like most people that know us would call us self-destructive in some ways.
Is that right?
Yeah, no, it's like the first thing is if somebody asks us whether we love to game, the answer is usually like no, not really, but we love to make games. Like that's what we love to make games. But then again, making games, like the interesting part is usually like the very first part, you know, where you have that creative spark or idea where you kind of go like, wouldn't it be really interesting, or wouldn't it be novel, wouldn't it be fun or different to try this, that just to try it, you know? And then you try it and it works, and that's like the best moment where you realize that this little idea I had, I prototyped it, and it's on my screen, and it's fun to play. And then you go into the part where you first define the art style and the music, and you know, we usually get like freelancers or others to help us out with that, or friends. And then you put that all together, and it looks nice, and it sounds nice, and it plays nice, and that's like fun. And then you get the point where you go into production and actually have to make the game, and that's draining. That's the difficult part. It's like where everything is sort of working, but then you have to do like lots of little things that you have to do to actually like make it work. Lots of bug fixing, a lot of basically boring stuff. Sure. And then you release it. And then the release part where you get like the feedback from fans, that's like the second good part. That's where all your work sort of comes to fruition and people can play it. And we really believe that a game isn't a game unless it's played. Like if it's not being played, it's just like a little icon on your desktop and it's not really doing anything.
Yeah. So
when people play your game, that is the moment where you can really see whether it works. And if you get like a really friendly email from a fan, like that makes it worth it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, it's like those two moments are the interesting part, and then everything in between is sort of like work.
Right. But you have to, it sounds like you're pretty dedicated to those interesting parts in order to lift them up and do the difficult part to make them happen.
Yeah. If the fun parts aren't interesting, like how the hell are you going to go through that uninteresting part?
Well, that brings me to another topic I wanted to make sure we talked about. You made radical fishing, right? And you're making righteous fishing now. Why do I always think righteous? Ridiculous.
No, it's ridiculous. It's righteous.
Righteous.
I like how you introduced the topic with like righteous. That's like good. I see where this is going.
And radical fishing was a game where you fish. You're on a boat and you put your hook down. You fling a fish into the air and then you blow it away with a gun. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can throw all these fish in the air and just make them explode. I've never played
fishing, just like everyone fishes.
It's completely radical. It reminds me of skeet surfing from the movie Top Secret, starring Hollywood hunk Val Kilmer. That's a whole other story. Anyway, so you made that game, and then someone else made a game called Ninja Fishing. Is that right? Or we don't have to name. You're right. Which was basically your game again.
Yeah.
They made your game. And what you just talked about was that the fun part of making a game is having this idea, like, whoa, isn't this going to be awesome? We've got our own idea. We're going to put ourselves out there. We're going to express ourselves. We're going to make people laugh. We're going to let people get to know us through our idea. And yet someone else, and a lot of people do this, they just take other people's ideas, which is the most fun part, and then just do all the like laborious crap to make it for some reason. I'm still just trying to wrap my head around why people make these clone games, how it felt for you to have that happen to you. I want to hear about that. But I also want to hear about what you think of the whole idea of ripping someone else's game like that.
Yeah. No, that's a pretty tough, it's a pretty tough thing. Yeah. The thing is that I think it's basically a pretty cynical view of the game industry.
Okay.
Where they stopped seeing games as a creative thing. That's basically what happened in a company like that. They see it as a way to make money. And as soon as you do, like, if you look at it in that way, they got like the best like business plan ever. You don't do all the research, you don't do all the prototyping, you don't do all the creative work, you don't do the risky things, because those are the risky things. You're involved. You're trying to make something. You're trying to make something interesting, and you try it, right? So we have, for every game we make, we have like dozens or sometimes even hundreds of little prototypes that we made that aren't fun. Sometimes we don't figure out something new for months while we're working on something, and as soon as a project starts, we also have this other little prototype which is really interesting, which we'll do after we complete the current project, right? So that's the risky part. You don't know when the next good game or good idea is going to come. So what those companies do is they just search on the internet for games that are sort of interesting but sort of obscure as well. They take the entire game, the entire creative part of it, and they send all of that to some South Asian country for cheap production. That's basically what happens.
Whoa.
Then they get the final game, they get a big PR company, and they release it. They earn a lot of money, they take the credit for coming up with the game, and then they search for the next project to like steal. It's a pretty cynical view of the game industry that is purely about like maximizing your profit, which in economic terms makes a lot of sense. But for the industry and for companies like us, it's pretty devastating because from our perspective, like what happened to us is we got demotivated, and that sounds kind of dramatic. But if you have to go through that really boring part of like polishing your game to be as good as possible, that's just a lot of work. You go to work, you go to your office, you work on your game, and you go home at the end of the day. There's not a lot of creative stuff happening, but it has to be done to make your game as good as possible, right? That's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not motivated, if in the back of your head there's this nagging feeling of whatever we do, it's just going to get stolen and somebody else is going to like take the credits and get rich, even though we like put it out there for people to enjoy it for free. Basically, Radical Fishing was free.
Right.
They're getting rich and they're getting the credits and they're getting like somebody even said like, I thought this ninja fishing thing was going to be a huge Fruit Ninja ripoff, but they came up with this really interesting fishing mechanic, and that like broke our heart. Like honestly, that hurts.
That's the worst.
You go to work and you go like, oh, every time you open your laptop and you like start, because we had started work on an iOS version of our own by then. You boot up your laptop to like start working on Ridiculous Fishing, our own sequel. You kind of go like, nah, this isn't worth it. Like everybody already played this, but by these assholes.
Right.
It's hard. It demotivated us for like months. I think it took like 3 months before we got that creative thing happening again, working again.
How did you get that back? How did you kind of come to the point where you accepted the evil of people who steal your work and move forward regardless of that? How'd you do that?
That was the fans, like definitely the fans, and the press. It was pretty. What happened when Ninja Fishing? The first time we heard about Ninja Fishing was when their release trailer was posted. It was a week before the game would launch, and the internet, like Twitter, all our fans and the press, they just went crazy over it. They got really upset that this happened, and so blatantly, because there's no shame in that practice. People just do it to make money, and they don't really worry about people getting upset because they'll just isolate their homes with like $100 bills and not worry it. So
yeah.
But the fans were super supportive, and the press like wrote about it a lot, and we got interviewed a lot, and people just genuinely seemed to care that this sort of stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried to figure out like how do you counter this sort of thing, and the only thing we could come up with is like let people know that you are a person making games, right? Like make people understand how games are made, that they're not made. Not every game is made by a big or small, whatever, by a faceless company just trying to get your money.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that genuinely care about video games as medium, and we're kind of scared that this cloning thing is happening more and more often. We've heard a lot of cases in the last year, like just the last year, there have been more cloning cases than in the last 5 years combined, I think, or at least ones that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
But we are scared that if this keeps happening, creative companies like ourselves or other indies might get like scared away.
Sure.
Because you can do whatever you want, but somebody else is going to steal your stuff anyway. And if that happens, like, who are the cloners going to clone? Are they going to clone clones? Because that would be a pretty like dim view of our industry if every game is just a complete derivative of something else.
Sure. I have to believe that good will win, or else I can't get out of bed in the morning. I have to believe that the fake African princes who are sending me emails trying to get me to just let them borrow my social security number, I have to believe that they're going to end up getting
I
caught.
would,
The people who are stealing your ideas will eventually gain so much disrespect that they will lose in the end because it's just too depressing to think otherwise.
no, I think that will happen. In the end, it will happen. In the end, people will. I think on. I think in the end, people like people want to see original games, right?
Right.
They want to see new stuff. They don't want to keep playing the same thing over and over again. Sure, a lot of people like safe games, games that sort of do what the games before that did. But if that stalemates for too long, you know, if the industry stays in this exact same state for too long, they'll get upset and search for new things. You've seen that happen with really big shooter franchises that were like untouchable 2 or 3 years ago, and nowadays people are going like, but this is the same game over and over and over again. Increasing amount of people want original shooters, which is why JW, the other Vlambeer guy, is hosting something called 7-Day FPS, which is basically a 7-day game jam to make first-person shooters in like 2 weeks. He's like inviting every game developer in the world to make a first-person shooter in 7 days.
Awesome. When's that happening?
June 9th. It will start on June 9th. You can check it out on 7dfps.org. I don't know why it's .org, but .org.
I got a message from Sinistar, the engineer of this show and star of his own arcade game, that I should reintroduce you. You are Rami Ismail, right?
Yes.
Did I say it? God, I'm so bad at pronouncing names. And you are the business side of Vlambeer, but you also clearly have a million design ideas as well. And
it's
coding.
Business and development. I do the programming and the business thing. And
Awesome.
then me and JW fight over things all day. That's basically Vlambeer. No, it really is.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I want to ask you about that in a second, but we also have questions. Oh, and also, if you email holmes@gmail.com, you can get money to buy this RoboCop shirt. It's RoboCop, but he's a cup. Yep. $10, I think it was. $30 is how much we're giving away. So just email me and say anything you want. I don't care. I'm just going to draw it at random. So yeah, I did that, Sinistar. I hope you're happy. Let's see. I wanted to ask you about your creative process with JW. I think it's really interesting. I've been thinking a lot about the creative process myself and looking to see the most creative people to see how they talk about it. And a lot of them say, you need to get yourself in an atmosphere where there's no such thing as a mistake. And you are simply exploring with usually someone else to bounce ideas off of. You're playing, you're exploring, there's no rules, there's no standard that you have to meet. And that's where new ideas will come from, because otherwise you're just crafting something, and craft has its place too. But craft is following steps to create a good product, whatever that means. And new ideas aren't going to come out of following preset standards. So, but you're fighting with JW all the time. Does that mean that you guys are like shooting down each other's ideas, or does that actually like drive you forward?
No. Like the one thing that like if that's a conclusion you pulled from all your shows before, an environment in which mistakes don't exist is like the most important thing to creativity. I think it's even a problem that mistakes are weighted so heavily in today's like world. Like making mistakes is the only way to find new things, right?
Sure.
The guy who involved the light bulb made like 1,000 ones that didn't work before he got the right one. And if you went like, no, that's wrong, it's wrong, what you're doing is wrong, he would have never invented the light bulb. And a lot of things are wrong. Like the world is sort of a place where people don't really like the notion of something new, because new is usually not what they're used to. Something that they're not used to is usually wrong. So avoiding an environment in which you can be wrong is the most important thing. Like just try stuff. Like I said before, make games, even if they're horrible. Like that's the way to find interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And a horrible game isn't a wrong game. It's just something that you tried that didn't work out, but you learned something that is not a good idea.
Right. So do you guys go through that when you're fighting with each other?
Yeah,
Are you both confident enough that you're like, he's shooting me down right now, but I trust him and he knows that I'm good, and I know that he's good. So we're still gonna move forward with this and trust each other and enjoy working with each other, so it doesn't like cause.
Okay. Let me tell you how me and JW met each other. We were in the train to a university that we both attended. It was a game design university, and I was telling a group of other students about something I'd been working on. And basically JW was sitting across where I was sitting, and he was sitting like sort of sleeping with a hoodie over his head. And it was early in the morning. It was like 9 a.m. And the thing he said, because I had been talking about this, the thing he said was, "Dude, shut the fuck up."
Those were the first words you heard from your.
That was the very first thing JW ever said to me. And I told him to like go back and be annoying under his hoodie. I thought he was pretty obnoxious.
Sure.
The thing was, I had been working on pretty big projects with like a commercial angle to them, so we tried to sell the games. And JW had been involved in a community called the Poppencast, which is basically a community of people that try to make games in as little time as possible. So our attitudes were like completely opposed. And at first, like, it seemed like we could never be like friends or whatever, because we were completely opposite people. And I'm not quite sure whether we are friends nowadays, but we learned to respect each other's opinions, and like we figured out that both of us knew something that the other person didn't. He can't really program. He can prototype like really rapidly. I can't prototype as fast as he can. If he has an idea, he just puts it in code in like 2 hours, and then you have a game. It's not really, it's not polished or anything, but it's like a playable version of the idea he has in his head. Well, he can't program it in a way that doesn't like crash your computer instantly when you try to boot it as a final product. He just can't do that. His coding made people cry. Like, honestly, it did. Including me. While I, on the other hand, I know how to you know, let people know this game exists, because if nobody plays your game, it's not a game, like I said before. So we both, and I can program, so we both have this opposing mindset, but the idea of that is that since we're two people, we really have to convince the other guy that our idea is good. And we learn to trust each other. So if JW says like, "Oh, this gun should fire 7.2 bullets a second," you know, he's probably right. He's really good with that sort of stuff. So I trust him. But if he says like, these type of clouds look really interesting, which is something that happened last week. He thought a certain type of cloud looked really cool. And I completely disagreed with them because I found them to be completely illegible. So then we discuss. And then we like figure out something that isn't a compromise, but is like a better solution.
Okay. So by challenging the ideas, better ideas.
We have a few design rules. One is we can't name other games when we're designing something, which is kind of weird, but it means like we can't say, "Let's have an inventory like the one in Diablo 2. We can't do that. We can't do that because the inventory in Diablo 2 was designed to be the best inventory for Diablo 2. It isn't the best inventory for our game. So if we have to like actually explain that, so we will have a inventory with like a grid, and every item like takes a certain amount of space, and then you have to like organize it. Just explaining that might trigger something in the other person, like a better idea for that game, or it might even trigger yourself. Like trying to explain something sometimes helps you understand something better than you did if you hadn't explained it to somebody else.
Sure. Yeah, taking the hard way often yields new ideas. Oh, it's so much work though. You guys make
so much work. That is the fun part for us, like figuring out the best way. To do something.
Awesome. It's kind of like your games. Your games are often tasking you to figure out the best way to get one place to another. You can't take the easy route a lot of the time. No. Oh yeah, we're 90 minutes now. This is our first 90-minute show. Is that okay with you?
No, yes. Let's. I have like half a bottle of Coke left, so let's do it.
Yeah, you've got plenty of energy, and I'm not running out of things I want to talk about at all. So this is going to be our first 90-minute show. Everybody, don't go away until 35 minutes. Then you can leave. We got another question. How do you go about getting the music for your games? So your games do have excellent music by them.
Well, thank you. We're actually hoping to do an original, like a soundtrack compilation of our games. That should be available for people to like buy or download. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we want to like bundle everything because we do think our games have pretty awesome music. What we do, like with everything, with art, with music, the indie scene, one of the most interesting things about the indie scene is that there isn't so much a sense of competition in there, right? We're all people trying to make beautiful things. And that means you can usually get someone really, really talented or good to help you out with something. So for Super Crate Box, there was this guy called Eirik Surka, and Eirik does the music for a little game called Spelunky HD, which is an Xbox Live Arcade game by Derek Yu, coming out like soonish, I think. I don't know when it's releasing, soonish.
Yeah, we've been waiting for a couple of years on it.
It's gonna be good though. It's looking really, really good.
Yeah.
But he basically offered to help us out with the music for our little Crates from Hell prototype, which eventually turned into Super Crate Box. So we just knew people who knew people who knew people that like put us in touch with people that could do awesome music. So with music and with art, we usually like tell the person we're working with, like, this is the idea, this is the game, and now you just do your thing, right? Because if we were good with music and art, we'd have done it ourselves, but we're horrible with music and art, so we get people that are interesting to us or seem to have a style that matches with what we intend the game to have. We just let them free because we don't want to like stare them with our limited knowledge of that sort of stuff.
Right.
So the thing is, if we get a lot of requests from musicians and artists nowadays that want to work with us, and I think the basic idea is if you want to work on indie games, the best course of action would probably be to join in game jams. A game jam is basically like a really short event in which developers gather or meet on the internet and then make a game set to a certain theme, like the 7-day FPS thing, the 7-day first-person shooter jam, which is happening in like 2 weeks. That is basically a game jam where people come together, but not everyone knows how to make music, right? So they'll be looking for musicians.
Sure.
And they'll be looking for artists, and they'll be looking for programmers. They'll be looking for a lot of stuff. So people come together, like create like teams specifically for that competition, then work together. And if the game is good or the music is good, it will get noticed, and then you'll work on more stuff, and then you'll build a name. And if you build a name, you'll get noticed by people that need music for bigger projects.
Sure.
I think that's the way for musicians to get noticed, because there are endless amounts of emails in my inbox, like right now, from musicians that really want to make music for us. And they all have a pretty good portfolio. Like, they're all pretty good. Like, some of them aren't, but a lot of them are good. But the thing is, we can also work with people that we know to be good, and they have a good reputation, and friends of ours have worked with them, and they could recommend it to us, and that's probably the one we're going to go with.
Sure. Yeah, because you have to put a lot of trust in them, especially if you...
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, other people would just tell them what to do and wouldn't have to trust them, but since that's not the way you go about it, and it makes perfect sense. I think when you tell people what to do, it crushes their souls and makes them creative.
That's exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the best out of people, and you get the best out of people. We're just trusting them completely. Right. It's our game, but we're not artists and musicians, so like, please don't listen to us, people we work with. Like, please don't.
And it's worked so well for you so far. The Super Crate Box soundtrack in particular.
Oh man, yeah. Super Crate Box has amazing music. Radical Fishing had a really nice soundtrack. Gun Gods, like the game. We got a Finnish guy called Yukio Kallio who used to do electro music. We got him to do like a gangster rap soundtrack in Venusian, and he rapped and like made gangster music, and it was like really good because he doesn't usually do that. So he has a pretty fresh like take on everything. And we were doing a talk a while ago, and we were just playing the music before the talk, like sort of as hello, sit down, and we'll do the talk after the song ends, sort of an intro. And then people like at the end of the talk, people just raised. There were 20 raised hands, and everybody wanted to ask like what the song at the start of the show was. It's really good. It's really good gangster rap, hip hop.
Really
music.
good Venusian gangster rap by
Yeah.
a guy from Sweden.
And then we got recommended. We got this rapper from the U.S. called Those One, who's apparently a big upcoming talent.
Okay.
He makes really awesome rap. He actually battled with like Eminem or something, like when he was younger.
Wow. Okay.
And he got recommended to us, so he like rapped the intro soundtrack, and that was completely like off the charts, ridiculously amazing. So we have this really weirdish sort of Venusian rap soundtrack. Just because we told Yukio like we want a rap in this game, we want a hip hop soundtrack or a gangster rap soundtrack, and it's based on Venus. And he went like, I'll just rap Venusian, and we went like, what is Venusian? And he said, I don't know, I'll just like do something in the microphone and it'll work out. Like,
and it did. Wow. I am so angry at myself that I have not played this game yet. This sounds incredible. Is that a game you would ever... You made it just for the IGF event, but would you ever put that out
Venus Patrol.
on
I know Venus Patrol is not like really done yet. It's soon, but as soon as Venus Patrol launches, there should be options to get the game some way from there. So yeah, no, it's a first-person shooter, and it has Venusian rap.
I can't wait to play it. Goes without saying. Let's see. Do we have any? Nope, no more questions. So I was going to ask you to tell me more about the whole idea of balance. That's something you talked about at the beginning of the show. I didn't want to cut you off. I think it's really interesting that game developers seek to create kind of a perfect world, and balance is usually a part of that, where everything is fair and everything is logical, but that is so different from the actual world. I usually get kind of burnt out on a game that's perfectly balanced. I can appreciate the craftsmanship that goes into that, but unless you throw in random elements that show you like, yeah, this isn't necessarily going to be fair, it doesn't resonate in the same way. What's your thought on game balance in that regard?
Balance is a weird thing. A good balance will obviously make games fairer, but fairer, like you said, isn't necessarily the funnest thing to do. You can see it in racing games. In racing games, they've sort of figured that out. Like the whoever is like in front will usually be a bit slower than whoever is behind him, which isn't fair. You know, it isn't fair, but it's more interesting to have two people racing really close to each other. In soccer games, football games, in the last 5 minutes of a match, you'll notice that your goalkeeper isn't as good as in the rest of the match, and the only reason that is because the last minute goal is interesting. Balance shouldn't be so much an absolute goal. The goal should be to have the best game you could, the most interesting game you can make. And if balance is something you need for that, like in StarCraft or whatever, you should have balance. But usually, it's not really that super important. It just should be fun.
Right. So fun should be the primary goal.
Fun or whatever. Like games aren't necessarily about fun. There are games that are about sadness or about death. We made a game called Glitch Hiker for the Global Game Jam.
Okay.
And basically, what Glitch Hiker was, we did that with a few friends of ours. It was a 6-guy team, and the theme of the game jam was to make a game about extinction. And we made a game. And the basic idea of the game was the game had 100 lives. Okay. So the game was connected to the internet, and the game had 100 lives. And every time somebody somewhere started this game, they would take a life from that pool and use it. And then they collected coins. It was a top-down, pretty fast game. So you looked at it from the top, and there was this guy walking around, and you collected coins. And if you collected for every 100 coins you collected, you like earned a life for the system.
Oh, okay.
So if you scored 100 points, you'd break even. You wouldn't have like lost the life because you earned back the life you used. If you scored over 200, you'd earn a life, and over 300, you'd earn 2 lives, right?
Right.
And so on and so on. The thing was, as the number of lives dropped, as the number of lives got lower, the game started to become sick, so it started to glitch, and the art would like glitch, and the music would glitch, and there would be like breaks in the game, and it would sort of start to fall apart. so people that played it later got a really glitchy experience.
Huh.
There were a lot of problems. And then if the game would ever like reach 0 lives, it would become permanently unplayable. Nobody could ever play it again. So
Wow.
you had this game that like I think 50 people played it over the course of 6 hours, and then it died because people like in generally sucked at the game.
Were there
And
enemies and
nobody
stuff like
can
that?
ever play the game ever again. Like
Yeah,
I can't play the game ever again.
tell me a little bit more about the. You go and collect coins. What are the challenges that are before you?
You walk around an arena, like I would tell you, like normally I'd say like play the game, but in this case it's going to be pretty hard because you can't. If you download it, you can just start the file and it'll just go like, oh, sorry, the game's extinct. So you'd run around and there'd be like blocks that would spawn and there'd be coins that would spawn. And if you collected coins, you'd like clear a little area of blocks around you.
Okay.
But the blocks could turn red and then they'd explode in a few moments. So you'd have to be careful like where you'd walk. It was a pretty fast-paced, Vlambeer-ish game, actually. So walking around, like trying to manage a lot of stuff happening at the same time. It was hectic. It was fast. It was strategic. You had to like figure out where you collected coins, because you know if you left the blocks around, they would explode at some point, and that was pretty dangerous. So you'd have to move around and figure out where you wanted to be and where you wouldn't want to be. Yeah, it was nice. It had a really great soundtrack as well. But
you talk about it like a dead friend. You're like,
it sort of feels like that. It's weird to work on something that doesn't exist anymore. Like I love talking about Glitchhiker because, you know what, games traditionally, like in the old days you had games, you know, they were games. They were purely games, and then at some point we started to add stories, right? And what sort of annoyed me always about stories in games is that they try to be movies, right? They try to like trigger all these emotions that movies try to trigger, like sadness and happiness and you know all those things. Well, we have something that is completely interactive, so you have the player to sort of mess with, right? You like when you talk about a book, you say like. Phaedrus drove on his motorcycle through the plains, and when you have like a movie, you say like Frodo throws the ring in Mount Doom. They have a game, and you go like I saved the world. I did. That I thing is so different from any other medium. So why aren't games exploiting that? I means you can make people feel guilt and pride and all those things, but games don't allow you to feel those things because they try to be movies. They try to make you feel happy or sad. While guilt is really interesting, and that is what Glitchhiker triggered. Because when you explain to people that if they screwed up, they would kill this game, they got scared. Some people didn't want to play. Some people went like, no, if like kill, like it will be gone. And we were like, yeah. They were like, okay, no, I'm not playing. Then the people who did play but screwed up, they were devastated. Like there were people that were honestly devastated that they like screwed up, and they'd try again sometimes if they dared to. And then if they screwed up again, like there was one girl that walked away crying, which is sort of intense, right? It's sort of weird, but that was different. It made me realize
awesome is what it is. Not to cut you off, but you created a game that gave people a genuine life experience, which you're not going to get from a time-based linear. Just here's my story, guy. You know, you go to the movies. Or
it was
it's going to be
exactly
great too, but it's not just making a game. It's giving someone the opportunity to go through your world and experience something for themselves and really interact with you. And you don't even know the can of worms you opened up since like 2007. I've been asking video games, please stop trying to be like movies, because I already have movies. I would go to the movies if that's what I wanted. No more cutscenes ever again. Then I take that back because I love the cutscenes and like few.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that kind of game. It's just a bit sad that there isn't too many of that other type of game that actually tries to do something interesting with that interactive part.
Yeah. Every kind of game can exist, but
yeah, no, I think it's important for every type of game to exist. Like it would be bad to say like there should only be indie games or there should only be purely focused on gameplay games. Like what we do is usually focused on gameplay and like delivering some sort of ridiculous fiction, like a weird fiction that we thought of. That is what our games do. But that doesn't mean I can't enjoy like a Proteus, which is a little game about walking around on an island and just enjoying the scenery. Well, there's a little bit more to it, but that is like the biggest part of the game is just you walking around an island. There's nothing you can do besides walking. And it's beautiful. I love it. It's super relaxed.
Okay.
It's the most relaxing thing ever, honestly. But that game like should exist as well.
Sure.
Right? So every type of game should exist, as far as I'm concerned.
Me too.
Like I'm thankful for every big shooter game as well. It's not like that I'm really like I go like hell yes, like really big shooter game. I go like, well, it's good that they're there because maybe somebody like enjoys it, and hopefully through that they'll find more games that they'll like, or maybe even our games. You don't know.
Sure, and they sometimes a big shooter game is a true expression of that side of myself. There's a very small part of myself that does just want to shoot strangers in the face, and I can express that side of myself if I want, but that's certainly not. I haven't found that to be the dominant side of me.
No.
So yeah,
no, but it's good that it's there.
Yeah, it's there. It's a little boring. Sorry, no offense, shooter game fans. We got more questions coming in. Boshiz asks, what's the process like when they're going to start a new game to get the art and music? Do you think someone starting out as a programmer should pay for those types of things? Could you recommend some places to look? It is a tough one because when you let your musicians go free, I'm sure when you pay someone, they expect to like work and be miserable. When they go free, you have to put a lot of trust in them to do that. But it's not always easy to get that set up.
Like I said, game jams are a really good thing. If you're a programmer, like I started out as a programmer as well, like going to those communities, game jam communities, TickSource, for example, at ticksource.com is a really big forum full of indie people. Full of people wanting to make stuff, but not necessarily programmers. There are a lot of artists and musicians around looking for people that can make a game that they can make art and music for. So get in touch with basically everything. Like if you go to the 7-day FPS thing, and there's an RSC chat, like you can join into, and there's dozens, maybe hundreds of people chatting there. You can just offer your services as a programmer. Go like I can program. But I'm looking for somebody with a great idea, or I'm looking for somebody who can do art or music. Sure. And if you want them to work for you for free, you're probably looking for people that are sort of in the same situation. They can do art, but they can't program. So they need a good programmer. The thing with working with people for free, like you said, is that you'll have to learn to cope with disappointments every now and then, because people will run out on you sometimes. Sure. It just happens. I had like dozens of projects that failed because somebody walked out on the project. It happens. But yeah, no, get in touch with people. If there's a local gathering of developers or artists or musicians, go there. There's in many places around the world there are gatherings of developers. We do something called Utrecht Indie Meetup, which is in Utrecht, or down where Vlambeer is, the city where Vlambeer is. It's basically just people that want to make games meet up there, and they talk and they like work together and they start cooperation. So look for local developer gatherings, go and sign up at TickSource, find game jams, and make stuff that will make you stand out.
Right, and get to know people personally. I think
get to know people. Yes.
Just a flood of emails. It's so hard to get an emotional resonance from those emails, but meeting someone personally and making an impression to make.
There's nothing quite like it.
Last week we had
GDC, the Game Developers Conference, which happens in San Francisco every year. Mm-hmm. The first time I went to GDC, that like really opened my eyes that there are so many people doing the things that I like really enjoy doing as well. and just getting to talk to them and meeting them, and some really, like really big names. When I met Jonathan Soderstrom, Cactus in the indie community, when I met him for the first time, he's like an icon. He's like a hero to me. And there he was just talking to me, and I was like, holy shit. Like this is, I look up to this guy. And I met Zach Gage, who I'm working with on Ridiculous Fishing with Vlambeer. We're working on something called Ridiculous Fishing. He made this thing called Lose Lose, and it's like a game. He made that like years ago, and it's basically Space Invaders, but every enemy has like a file extension over its head, and you can guess what happens when you shoot it. It deletes a file with that file extension from your computer. It deletes it. It's like one of the most ridiculous things, but it's a striking game. So I was talking to him, and he said, "Well, I used to do some little things, some game called Lose Lose, but you probably." And we're like, "Wait, you did what? you made Lose Lose? I adored that game for like the balls it had.
Yeah.
Like, can you make somebody play a game that will delete your own files?" I adored the idea of it. And there was the creator, like, standing right in front of me, and I was like, oh, God, this is like that guy, and a hero, a personal hero of mine as well. And I'm working with it.
Yeah. It's so weird when you meet them. You meet these people that you're like, he can't be a person because he made this thing that is so great. And then they're all just like normal dudes. I've met so many, I've been lucky enough to meet so many people. Meeting you, for instance, at PAX East. You're just a regular human being. It's fantastic.
I'm a bit weird, maybe. But
no weirder. No weirder than I am. But yeah, please be social, you guys. You'll thank us for it.
That's the thing.
Pio Canoa Analog asks.
Ooh. I didn't get that. Could you please try that again?
Pio Canoa Analog. I did it.
Okay.
Asks, what would your dream game project be? And it sounds like you make a lot of your dream game projects. Sounds like you have way more ideas than you can ever bring to fruition. But if you had endless amounts of money and time and just a staff who is willing to do exactly what you said at all times, do you have an idea of what game you would make?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what I would make, and it would be absolutely horrible, I think. Creativity is so much fueled by limitations that having endless everything would just like make you do this ridiculous idea that you have in mind, and it would probably be pretty bad. Like I have no clue what my dream project at this moment is like Luftrausers, which is a game we're actually making.
What is Luftrausers?
It's a dog fighting game.
It's a dog fighting game.
You fly with an airplane, and we have this prototype that we released a year ago. And the thing that did was it has 3 colors. It looks like as basic as it can be. It has a kick-ass soundtrack, and even if you're the biggest idiot in the world, it will still make you feel like the best ace fighter pilot ever. Like, the controls in that game feel so right, like so perfect, so powerful, that whoever plays it, he feels like the best fighter pilot in the world. And we were sort of fascinated by that, so we decided to work on it a bit more. So we decided to take that prototype that we released a year ago and actually develop it into a full game. But I suppose every project you do kind of has to be your dream project. Like, if you're not doing your dream project, why the hell are you not working on your dream project?
Sure. Out of all the things you can be doing, the one that rises to the top of your priority list is hopefully your dream project.
Yeah. Oh, and that is another thing. I used to be in space sims a lot. That's what I used to do before I went to Vlambeer. I made space games and big space kind of things. I really used to like that. I want to do a Vlambeer style space game, whether it be 4X or a fighter game or whatever. That is something me and JW, it's one of the things me and JW agree on. Really bad science fiction books are the best thing ever. They are the type of science fiction game from like a book from like the 60s or something, or the 70s, where they still thought Venus, like under its clouds, had like dinosaurs and women in like coconut bikinis and shit. That sort of book is like the best thing ever. So we really want to do a space game like one time. That is like, I think that would be the dream project. Like, if there's next to Luftrausers, there's another one. It's probably that one.
Have you seen the film Gentlemen Broncos?
Yeah, I think I have.
Yeah, it's a special movie. Yeast Wars. There's yeast wars going on another planet. I think there's a bald robot woman with 3 boobs and
yeah.
No,
that sort of movie happens.
Yeah.
But the really old ones, I usually like those better. Like
the
really
legitimate ones, as opposed to the parodies.
The really, really crappy ones. The worse they are, usually the better they are in terms of how much effort somebody has like put into creating some sort of ridiculous fiction that just sort of works.
Sure. Well, there's so much passion in that stuff, but it's so painful at the same time.
Painful,
weird combination, isn't it? I can really relate. I feel like half the stuff I do is passionate and horrible. We got another question. LeFay asks, how different is it to develop a game that is completely original and one that is already a defined IP, like Serious Sam? However, your approach to Serious Sam was certainly pretty original, I would say.
Yeah, no, it is different, though. Serious Sam was one of the more draining projects, I think, because you sort of have to keep between certain lines. We did think that the challenge of, how do you say it? Like, the enemy types in Serious Sam are pretty defined and pretty striking. You have a bull that charges at you, and you have, like, the flying enemies that shoot at you, and you have all sorts of enemies that are really well defined. And the challenge that we found that kept us going in Serious Sam was, like, how do we translate those enemies to the turn-based RPG format in a way that they would be absolutely recognizable as that enemy. So you have, like, the bulls, they charge in from, like, this side of the screen, and they run at you, and you can, like, sort of try to dodge them. And if they miss you, they will just warp back to the other side of the screen and come at you again.
Oh, like Bo Jackson, Tecmo Bowl, yeah.
Which is basically exactly what happens in Serious Sam if you play it. A bull charges at you, and you, like, jump aside at the last moment and shoot it with your shotgun, which is the best strategy in Serious Sam, the random encounter as well. Then you turn around, and it starts charging at you again. So basically, we translated the behavior from the 3D Serious Sam first-person shooter to a turn-based RPG in a way that is exactly like you have to sort of handle it like you did in Serious Sam, but then as a turn-based RPG.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was like the interesting thing for us. Like, how do we translate those defined things into something that fits what we want to make? And I think we like figured it out for basically every enemy. So we were pretty happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like it was a fun set of limits to work within. And like you were saying before, limits can lead you to solve problems in an exciting new way. I'm going to read some poetry real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, go for it.
It comes as a surprise to me, too. Last week, we were giving away $30 of threadless money, just like we are this week. And to remind you, email holmes@gmail.com to win $30 of threadless money. You could win this RoboCup. I mean, you could buy this RoboCup shirt for that money. It's only $10. But last week, I did it wrong because I asked people to write a poem, and only one person actually wrote one. Matt McNeely wrote a poem about a game called Trio the Punch. Have you ever played that game, Rami?
I don't really think so. I have to look it up.
I really want you to play it bad. As I've gotten to know you on the show, I am fully confident that you will love, not like, but love Trio the Punch.
It looks nice.
It's a game. It's a game that attacks video games in general, but it's a loving attack. But it's so hard to tell whether they're joking some of the time. It's on that line of.
They did a good job.
Yeah. It's one of the people who made Karnov. They made Karnov. Karnov was really popular. Then they made like another one called Chekhov that was like a radioactive Karnov that wasn't as popular. And then they didn't know what to do, so they made Trio the Punch. And I don't think they made too many games after that, actually. Anyway, this guy wrote, Matt McNeely, so you won the threadless money, Matt. Thank you for writing the poem. And it goes like this. Trio the Punch, Trio the Punch, Trio the Punch. Yeah. Trio the Punch. This Kusogi shouldn't be missed from the crazies at Data East. Unlucky. Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. That's his poem. Thank you, Matt. You win the thing.
Well read, man. I could feel the emotion behind that.
Yeah, that was my first reading of that, actually. Hopefully I did okay. Rats, we have about 5 minutes left for a wonderful 90-minute episode. You carried the show. You did so well on this show. Or do you do a lot of shows like this?
No, we do a lot of talks and like workshops for students or aspiring game developers, though. So we do talk.
You're very good at talking. Thank you for being a good talker. You have only 4 minutes left, though. Is there anything? I barely got to ask about ridiculous fishing. How is that going to be different from radical fishing?
Oh, it's gonna be like beautiful. We got an art style by Greg Woolman, who did Solid Skier as well, and he's amazing. And we got Zach Gage, who did Spell Tower. It's gonna look completely different, and we've just approached it as how would we make radical fishing if we hadn't made radical fishing but decided to make it on iOS at first. So we just like started all the way from the beginning. We didn't take the easy route like we usually don't. And then when the ninja fishing thing happened, that basically Mike told us that this game, you know, it has to like blow ninja fishing out. We want to make absolutely sure that everybody can see that we understand this game better than anybody else. Like we know what makes it tick, and they don't. They just copied it. So we're really pushing on this game. We've always intended to, but this is like the extra kick that kind of pushed us to make the best thing possible. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be better, and it's going to be more ridiculous. It will actually also be more radical. More weapons, more stuff, more things. The different locations to fish in. Yeah, so much new stuff. It's too much to really like get into it in like the 2 minutes we have left.
Sure,
but
I hear the tone of your voice tells me that you're this is like Rocky. This is like Rocky 2. Have you seen Rocky?
Yeah.
You got beat down by ninja fishing and it hurt bad, but you're coming back stronger. You've been in the gym. You've been punching dudes in the face and like
hell yeah,
pieces of ham and lifting them over your head until your arms are gigantic. You're just gonna crush them with your new fishing game. It's gonna kill everyone. So not everyone can.
We're working on that. We're working on that. We hope to have it out by like August or September or something. Okay. Hopefully, like the last time we promised a date, it was delayed by like 3 months or something. That was super great box. But we're working on it. It's gonna be out sometime in the future.
I'm sure it will be.
What do you think? We're working on Luftrausers.
Oh yeah, your dog fighting game. Not dog fighting like dogs biting each other, but flying a plane and shooting another guy's.
No, actually a dog fighting game.
Right.
Yeah, Luftrausers, which is also going to be completely ridiculous. Like that, the prototype that we had already made you feel like the best pilot ever, but this new game, like even in the early stages where we're at now, it already like feels better. It feels more rewarding to shoot things to complete smithereens.
Yeah.
Plus, you can like customize your airplane. It's the first time you can customize a Luftrauser in a game ever. There has never been a game before in which you can customize a Luftrauser.
You think that's because they want historical accuracy or something like that? Oh, well, crap, we only have 1 minute. I can't get too deep into it. Rats. I want to tell everyone who you are. This is Rami Ismail, half of Vlambeer. What's your Twitter handle, Rami, so people can follow you on the tweets?
Yeah. Well, Vlambeer is just at Vlambeer. I am THA_Rami, and JW is JWAAAAB. That's 4 A's.
Why did he do that? What a jerk.
What? I have no clue whatsoever. I can only imagine the 2 A's were taken.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it. I could have gone another
Thank you
half
for
hour.
having me.
Man, this caffeine really kept this going too. I'm gonna take your.
Let's
Take
take another sip.
Yeah.
I can do sponsoring me.
Yeah, you did it. Wow, what a cool beard. I just bought I don't know if you've seen the show Adventure Time at all. You seen that?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Pretty good. I bought this BMO toy today, and
Holy
I
shit.
don't know if you can see that. He plays a Abe Lincoln game. Abe
Oh
Lincoln
shit, that's
fighting.
me. It's
Yeah,
me.
I know, that's you. All you
Beard.
need is a hat, and you are in BMO after that.
I see bit trip.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired. Sup, Holmes?